YouTube zone. All right, good evening, everybody. Better late than never. Welcome to another edition of Grassroots Motorsports Live, presented by CRC Industries. I'm JG Pasterjack. We were supposed to be here 15 minutes ago. That didn't happen. Here's a little thing about computers and about software and about all that stuff is occasionally, sometimes, when they try and make stuff better, it makes stuff worse for us. So everything went through a big system update today, and all of our software got discombobulated and thrown out of whack, and we were rushing around sticking cables into different holes and tweaking buttons and moving stuff all over the place, trying to get everything to work. And this whole time it was Windows, and it was our broadcast program thwarting us as we were trying to fix things. But we're here now, and that's all that matters. Folks, I see a lot of our friends here, Mike and Dinesh, already saying hi. Thank you very much. Here's what you can do for us if you're enjoying the show. Throw us a like, throw us a share. If you're watching us on Facebook, click that little like button, click that share button, let your friends know you're watching. If you're watching us on YouTube tonight, welcome aboard. You can click that subscribe button down at the bottom, and you'll subscribe to get all of the content we put up on YouTube. As soon as it goes up, you'll find out about it, and you'll be able to watch the show every week. You can watch the show every week now, but you'll know about it in advance. Also be telling you a little bit later how you can get some free stickers from us at Grassroots Motorsports, just for being cool and watching the show. So we'll be giving away some free stickers later. All right, let's get to it. I see some of our regulars on already. Thanks for being patient. Thanks for hanging out while we got our technical stuff squared away. Here's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And actually, before we even go into any of that stuff, let's send a quick shout out to the folks that make this show possible. Talking about our friends at CRC Industries. There's a can of Brake Clean Pro Series sitting right over here. This stuff is in the stores now. Brake Clean Pro Series. Same as Brake Clean. It's Brake Clean. It's just bigger. It's like 50% bigger than a regular can of Brake Clean, because the only thing better than Brake Clean is more Brake Clean. So check this out. Major retailers now: O'Reilly, Advance, Napa. I've actually seen it physically in those three places, so I know they have it. And I think it's going to be working its way into like Lowe's and maybe even Walmart and stuff before too long too. Also, check out our friends at Coney. They'll be bringing us a tech tip later on. We'll be talking about shock dynos with the folks at Coney midway through the show. Check them out at coney-na.com. And also check out our friends at Autobooks Aerobooks, autobooks-aerobooks.com, the world's best bookstore out there in Burbank, California. And on the internet, you can order any of their tens of thousands of books, magazines, videos, collectibles on anything that has a motor, wings, wheels, or pedals. All right, so we have, oh my God, our friend Dean Case is saying hi. Here's what's going on right now. We have a lot of folks at VIR right now. In fact, Ed is moderating the show from VIR. They're up there for the Ultimate Track Car Challenge and Hyperfest, which is taking place starting tomorrow. I believe tomorrow the NASA competitors will start loading in. Friday, cars will start challenging that VIR course in the Ultimate Track Car Challenge. And then Saturday, there'll be an elimination shootout to crown the Ultimate Track Car competitor for 2018. We're very, very excited about that, as well as a bunch of other cool Hyperfest stuff going on up there as well. So let's get down to it. Here's what we are doing tonight. Those of you that follow my personal social media saw that this weekend I was wrestling and having fits trying to put this Momo steering wheel on the Corvette. I want to share some of those experiences with you tonight, show you some of the things I learned. We were going to do that install live. I am so glad we didn't, because what a colossal giant pain in the nuts that was. It took me hours on, it was like Saturday or Sunday, just an absolute butt buster trying to get the old wheel off and get the new wheel on. So we're going to be talking about a couple things I learned during the install on the C5 wheel. We're also going to be talking about seating for track use, for autocross use. One of the things that we learned very quickly about the C5 Z06 is that the stock seats are crap. Now this one has a very, very nice cover kit on it from Mid-America Motor Works. This is as nice as you are ever going to see a base C5 seat. It still sucks for high performance use. It is just not up to the task. As well as, even if the seat itself was better, the general driving position in a C5 is crap. So we are fixing all of that. We're going to talk about a lot of the ways that that we are going about fixing that. So let's start with the steering wheel. Stock Corvette steering wheel has a few issues. Oh, our friend Steve is on. Steve made a copy. Actually, I can't even call it a copy. It is the nicer, better version of the harness bar that I made in this car, and it's working out great for him. So I'm glad that that my design worked out well for him, even if my execution is not the prettiest in the world. We'll show you that later as well. So let's talk a little bit about steering wheels in Corvettes. Stock Corvette steering wheel, again, I hate to keep bagging on this car because it's a great car, but it does have some definite shortcomings, and one of them is a seriously large and sort of unsporty stock steering wheel. This is the stock steering wheel off of the Vette. It's an airbag wheel, but it's covered with a very slick, it's leather, so it's, you know, it wears nice, it's high quality, but it's very, very slick. It's got spokes that are a little bit below a very, you know, a nice 9-3 orientation, so they're not really in the ideal place for driving. It also has a weird hand shape here, and it's big. I mean, it's this thing is a little over 15 inches in diameter, as opposed to this Momo 69 that we put on, which is about 1.25 inches smaller. It's right at 14 inches. So we actually reduced diameter quite a bit. We increased ergonomics quite a bit. Much nicer high performance grip here. These the Momo 69 is a classic three-spoke design, Alcantara leather, nice and grippy, nice size, doesn't block any of the instruments, fantastic place to go about your business. But we have to get the stock wheel off. So how do we do that? Just check out. So we got one of our friends, Eric, is going to be at the UTCC this weekend in a neon. Hope to see you there. Let's talk a little bit about taking the stock wheel off. First thing is, this is an airbag wheel, and look, legally, I cannot describe to you how to disarm an airbag, how to take off an airbag. I shouldn't even be talking about this. I can tell you a few things about airbags that you might need to know while you are undergoing this transformation. First off, airbags explode when they deploy very, very violently. Let me grab here is the airbag out of our Corvette. This is the actuator device. It is literally an explosive device powered by a 12-volt outlet. Now, I know what you're saying. Is he going to set this airbag off live on the show? And the answer to that is, yeah, of course we are. Am I stupid here? Of course, yes. But we're not going to do it tonight. Sorry to disappoint you. It's very rainy. It's very gross outside tonight. We're going to wait for a nicer night. And I'm also going to wait for a night that we can sort of warn the neighbors in advance that maybe one of the explosions over here is going to be a little bit louder than the explosions that they are used to. So, yeah, there's plenty of videos on YouTube demonstrating airbag shenanigans. Dinesh says, well, guess what? There's going to be one more pretty soon because we're gonna pop this baby off. We're gonna save it for a special occasion, and we are going to give it its due. So, don't take your airbag off. Don't ever do that. If somebody was going to take an airbag off, though, however, just saying, there's two T27 Torx screws holding it in from the back. You're going to need to turn your wheel 90 degrees if you're the kind of person that would want to do this and you're taking an airbag off of a Corvette. Much easier to get to those T27 Torx bits when the wheel's been turned and there's some clearance that you can actually get your extension there. You need, or whoever would be doing this, not that anybody should be doing this, but if somebody were to do this, they would need about a 3-inch extension on a 1/4-inch ratchet. And the first thing that person who should never ever do this would want to do would be to disconnect the battery, because the last thing you want is for 12 volts to go to that airbag and somehow set that airbag off while you are working on it. So disconnect that battery, and then you want to wait, because there is a capacitor that actually is in line between your electrical system and the airbag itself. And the capacitor is there for precisely the reason that the airbag needs to be active for a little while after the car has been shut off or the battery has been disconnected. And if you're ever in an accident, God forbid, where the battery becomes disconnected, the airbag still needs power to blow. So there's a capacitor in line there, so you want to give that capacitor time to discharge itself. Capacitor is not going to hold a charge forever. Give it 10 or 15 minutes. Let that capacitor discharge completely before you or whoever would want to undertake this ridiculous activity should ever start messing with an airbag. Not that you should. You shouldn't, but whoever would want to do that should do that. Oh my gosh, Dinesh is telling us that the 4th of July falls on a Wednesday, and yeah, okay, it's a deal. 4th of July, we are blowing the airbag off, and you know, maybe we'll throw some gasoline on it first or something. So, battery is disconnected. We're gonna, or somebody is going to remove that airbag from the steering wheel. Some cars actually have connections in line between, you know, downstream of where the airbag actually connects to the steering wheel. If you can access those connections and undo them so you could guarantee that that airbag would never get 12 volts while you were working on it, that's a good thing to do. In the case of our Corvette, you can actually access some of those connections by taking some of the kick panels off. That's a pain in the ass, so take the bag off the wheel, disconnect the connector from the bag. Do not ever cut the wire to the airbag while the airbag is connected, because what can happen is while you are cutting that airbag, your pliers, your diagonal cutters, whatever you're cutting it with, can act as a bridge and take voltage from one of those wires that might have voltage going to it, bridge it to the other wire, create a ground, boom, airbag goes off. Next thing you know, you're deaf and you're missing a couple of teeth on one side because you had your face in front of it. So pull the connector. Do not cut the wire while the airbag is still hooked up. Ed says we should combine the airbag show with a black powder show for the 4th. I like the way you're thinking, but let's not let things get out of hand. I still have to explain this to my neighbors when this stuff happens. So, airbag's off. Now we have to get the wheel off. Now here's where things got ugly this weekend. And you can actually go out on YouTube. There's some good videos about dudes taking their steering wheels off of their C5s. And every single one of them that I watched, helpful though they were, they ran into issues because these wheels, and I talked to friends with C5s, C5 wheels run the gamut from, hey, it fell off in my hands. I took the nut off, the wheel popped right off, didn't need a puller, didn't need anything, to, oh my God, I had to literally saw the wheel off of the shaft. We fit neatly into sort of the latter part of that classification. This wheel was really, really stuck to that shaft. It was really wedged on there, and it was a pain to get off. So here is my advice. Here's the advice that I'm going to give you. Here's what worked for me. First off, you're gonna go to YouTube. You're gonna search for C5 steering wheel install, and you're gonna see guys successfully removing a steering wheel with one of these. This is a 3-jaw puller, or you're gonna see them removing it in a 2-jaw configuration, and it worked out for some people. Skip that altogether. I fought with this thing for hours, and there's actually 2 great spots to hook your jaw puller in behind this wheel. You can see how much it dug into the wheel flesh there and there. You can get a great hook on the back of this wheel with a bearing or a pulley style puller, like these jaw pullers. Problem is the wheel doesn't come off. This wheel, very, very soft aluminum, this hub here. So what happens actually is it folds the top. It wants to fold the top and bottom together, creates more tension on this center knurled area here, and it just doesn't come off. I wrenched on the thing for hours, and could not actually get it off. Here's what you want to go and get. You want to get a GM J-hook style steering wheel puller. This is a cheap one. This is from O'Reilly. This was 15 bucks. It kind of destroyed itself in using it. You can get a good one off of a Snap-on truck, or off of Amazon. Amazon has the more commercial versions of these, and I actually had to modify even this one a little bit to fit. But what this one does is these J-hooks right here fit into these indentations on the wheel, and then they give a little quarter turn, lock right into the back there, and that is what allowed us to be able to pull the wheel off. Now, even that I have heard horror stories about. I have heard horror stories about this aluminum actually ripping right clean out of here, even with these J-hook style design pullers. What it does, it puts a lot more pressure right in next to the spline shaft, so it's a more direct pull. It's not folding that aluminum up and pinching the splines on the shaft. So it's the right tool for the job. It still is not the perfect tool for the job in some situations. So before you use one of these, make sure of a couple of things. Make sure you've got a nice flat surface on the bottom of these J-hooks. I actually took a little bit of a grinding wheel to both of these and did a little bit of shaping on the, I mean, you can't see what's gone now because it's gone, but did a little bit of shaping to make sure I had a nice flat surface, and when it locked in to these little indentations here, that there was no way that thing was gonna come out of there. It was either gonna break the wheel or it was gonna pull it off, and luckily it pulled it off before it broke the wheel. So, let's see. Yeah, Dinesh says it would be cheaper to buy another C5Z than it would be to buy a puller from Snap-on. Yeah, again, this is a $15 puller from O'Reilly. I think I got one use out of it. It actually started to rip the threads out of here, and I had to put a couple of nuts on the center shaft to get it to kind of balance right and dig in the correct way. But if I never use it again, I got my money's worth. And if I'd ever have to pull one off, I'll try this for 2 minutes, and if it doesn't work, I'll go buy another $15 one, and we'll leave it at that. So wheel is off. Now what? Okay, now we got to put the new wheel on. Couple of choices. Let me grab the Momo hub over here, Chris. The Momo hub's not over there. Oh, here's the Momo hub. I brought it over here already. So, Momo 69. $229 retail. You can probably get it cheaper than that out on the street somewhere. Full price, $229. From Momo, fantastic company, storied history, good parts, nice quality, and great folks to deal with. We are honored to have them as supporters of the magazine, and we're lucky too, because they make great products. I've used Momo seats before. First time I've used a Momo steering wheel in several years. I like it a lot. Excited about getting out on track with it. Hi to Brian, who just joined us. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. So let's talk about how we have to get that wheel onto the steering shaft. This is where things get a little more complicated too, because believe it or not, there is not a sort of one box by design, bolted on and go conversion hub for a C5 Corvette. This is the Momo hub. Let me show you a close-up. You see this notch in the bottom right here. Well, it's actually not in the bottom. The notch is designed to be kind of over to the side like this. But in the case of the Corvette, this is actually where a little hard point, a little sort of strain relief, hard plastic grommet comes through the clock spring and lets it brings some wiring out. It actually protects the wiring from the airbag, from the horn wiring. So that's a hard piece of plastic that has to be worked around. So that's why this notch is here. Now usually that piece of plastic is over on the left side of the steering shaft, and your wheel would be oriented this way. You can see the 6 attachment points for the steering wheel, which would be oriented thusly. Now on the Corvette, that little grommet, that piece of strain relief plastic, is on the bottom, so you have to orient it this way. So you can see already we're screwed up. We got our bolts not lining up with vertical, so when we put the wheel on, it's going to be 30 degrees to one side. Each of these 6 bolts, each of them 60 degrees, so our wheel's going to be 30 degrees off center, and that is a long way to align around. You probably could align that out by jacking your tie rod ends all the way to one side, but you'd have seriously unequal length tie rod ends at that point, and you're at center. Your rack would not be really parked in the center of the travel. Not the best situation in the world. So what do we do? Couple of options. First off, we wanted to use a quick release. So in that case, we were in luck. NRG has a hub and a quick release, but again, not the ideal setup, because even their Chevy hub, and I got the part numbers written down here somewhere. Yes, here we go. Hub, NRG SRK 170H, about 90 bucks on Amazon. You can find them from about 85 to about 95 bucks out there from various outlets. Quick release, which is the thing that attaches to the back of the wheel, lets the wheel pop right off of that hub. That is NRG SRK 200. You get them in different colors. There's usually a color code past that. And optional, you've got a spacer. We'll talk about this in a minute, but spacer is SRK 500B. It's about 25 bucks. So for a little over 200 bucks, 205, 210 with tax and shipping, that's what it's going to take to get a quick release on your C5. So what do we have to do at that point, and what options do we have? Well, we still could use the Momo hub if we wanted to align around it somehow. But the Momo hub does have some clearance issues on the back here. You have to actually cut some of the plastic in the surround of the steering column, and we didn't want to do that. And we also, again, still wanted the quick release. So Chris, move in here Let me turn these other lights on. Let me plug these other lights in. This was all part of our technical nightmare earlier, apparently. So here's the various pieces we are looking at here. Here is the NRG hub, bolt on to the original steering column, and then you mount the backing plate for the quick release, which will interface with the main plate on the wheel, and boom, you are good to go, ladies and gentlemen. So that's basically the pieces it takes. The NRG hub actually straightens the wheel a little bit nicer than the Momo hub does, and it also gets the wheel out to just about the same distance from you as stock. So let me take a quick measurement here. So we're about 5 1/4, and on the stock wheel we're at about 5 1/4. So the NRG hub with the short hub, the SRK 170H short hub, the SRK 200 quick release, you are about the same distance with this Momo 69 wheel that you would be with the stock wheel. If you wanted to get a wheel with more or less dish at that point, you could use that to adjust the distance a little bit, or you could use this SRK 500B, which is basically a spacer. You can also use this spacer to actually clock the wheel and get it a little bit closer to where you might need to be. It's a 1/2 inch thick, brings the wheel a 1/2 inch closer to you. We wanted a little further away. If this was going to be an endurance car, this was going to be, you know, a road race car, and I was running someplace big like Road Atlanta where I didn't need a lot of fast, high effort steering inputs, yeah, I would definitely want the wheel a little bit closer. But in this case, it's mostly an autocross car, so I like having that little bit more leverage, a little bit more distance, let the hands move a little bit faster, give them a little bit more room to work. So that is the story on the wheel. So Andrew wants to know, what about the airbag on the driver's side? Yeah, it's gone. And again, I would not recommend anybody ever do that on anything that they're going to drive on the street. But there's just no way to safely mount that airbag onto an aftermarket wheel. Something that's going to be used on the track. I'm good with that. I'm all for it. Again, I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying, if that's what you're going to do, please understand the liability that you're exposing yourself to, and act accordingly. So, yeah, Jim says, Andrew, you can kiss it goodbye. You just have to put a resistor where the airbag plugged in to keep the light from coming on. It needs about a 1.5 ohm resistor, I think. I can confirm that later. Or you can just live with the airbag light coming on and put a piece of tape over it. But again, don't do any of that. And if you do it, don't tell them I told you how to. All right, so that is the story on the wheel. We're going to take a little break. We're going to get our Coney Tech Tip of the Week, and we're going to take a look at seating next. And I got a very cool seat mount set up to show you. We're going to talk a little bit about why we actually want a better seat in the Vette, which is fairly obvious once you ride one of these around a track that you do. We're going to take some measurements, show you exactly how the new seat stacks up to a stock seat here. First, I want to tell you a little bit about our friends at CRC Industries. Folks, you see our big wall of CRC stuff back there. Those are not props. That is not just set dressing. Yes, it looks great back there. It looks sexy. It looks cool. It looks like we know what we're doing. Hey, But the reason that stuff is there is because we are advocates, we are users, we are fans of the CRC stuff. Not a day goes by when I'm not spraying brake clean on something. I'm not spraying the freeze off. I actually soaked this friggin' wheel with freeze off, thinking, yes, this will solve everything. It helped. I'm sure it helped. I'm 100% sure it helped. But even freeze off cannot solve every problem when you're not using the right tool. So if you're at a store, if you're at O'Reilly, if you're at Napa, if you're at Advanced Auto Parts, if you're at Lowe's, if you're at Walmart, you're reaching for automotive chemicals, you're grabbing that CRC stuff, you're getting a good product. Yes, we all know that. But you're getting a product from a company that supports this world that we live in. So that's why we appreciate you guys supporting CRC, because by doing so, you are helping out the amateur motorsports community, you're helping out grassroots motorsports, helping out this show. Also want you to check out our friends at Autobooks Aerobooks. Check them out there in Burbank, California. If you're ever out there, if you're ever in Burbank, stop by the store. It's worth a trip to the store to visit and see how awesome it is. They have tens of thousands of books, magazines, collectibles, DVDs on everything from race cars to street cars, shop manuals, photography books, history pieces, fiction, nonfiction, and every weekend they've got cruise-ins and author signings, and there's always something going on. They're not just selling books, they are doing stuff. They are being part of the automotive culture there in Southern California. And if you can't make it out there, check them out on the web at autobooks-aerobooks.com, and you can order anything from the store, even signed copies of some of their cooler books. Next, we're going to check out this week's tech tip from Coney. Now, last week, if you joined us, Lee Grimes introduced us to the concept of shock dynos, what they do, how they work. This week, we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about, okay, now we have a dynoed shock. What do we do with that information? What is that information telling us? So let me bumble over here to the magic computer, where I will queue up this week's Coney Tech Tip of the Week.
Hi, this is Lee Grimes with Coney Shock Absorbers. We recently did a video in our engineering lab showing you how a shock dynamometer works, how you can test a shock and get information from that machine. Now what I'd like to do is focus on the way that we can print that information out in graphic form and begin to learn the lessons that the shock dyno can teach us. Generally, there are two more common types of dyno graphs that we might look at. One of them is called the force versus displacement graph. It measures the shock absorber operating at a single piston speed and then shows the forces that it makes in both rebound and compression damping. This is often known as, say, a football graph as well. The more common one that we use and a lot of enthusiasts are used to looking at is what's called a force versus velocity dyno graph. This measures the damping forces both at rebound and compression, but also from zero piston speed up through a relatively high piston speed, so we can see the range at which the shock absorber works. When we look at the dyno graph itself, we can begin taking a look at how the information is laid out. It doesn't matter exactly how you lay it out, just so long it's providing the information that you're looking for. In this particular layout, I've got compression damping above the zero line, rebound damping below the zero line. At the piston speed, when the shock absorber is making no piston speeds at all, it's building no force. And that's the 0 point. As we progress from the left to the right, the faster the shock absorber is moving, the more damping forces that it's got. Now that we've got it laid out as such, we can begin looking at some of the shapes and curves and graphs that it's giving us. Now we're getting some really useful information from our shock dyno graph, but we have to remember that a shock dyno graph does not represent actually what the car is doing in its normal operation on the road. The shock never starts at one speed and goes consistently to higher speeds. It's constantly moving up and down, hitting bumps, transitioning the body, and doing a variety of things like that. It's never a clean-cut situation, and that's the thing that you have to remember. A lot of people like to look at the graph and see how much damping force it's making at a certain point, and they might even like a particular damping graph shape necessarily. However, The car would never make that shape when it's driving. That's just simply helpful information that you can use from this testing device, and then you need to apply it to what is it that the car is really doing out on the road. Remember, we drive a car on a surface with passengers and tires and springs, and a shock dyno is the shock itself isolated. It's only telling what that shock is doing and not what the whole story of the suspension is doing. The takeaway from our shock absorber dyno lesson is that a dyno is an excellent way to quantify the performance and function of a shock absorber, but it's one of many great tools that we will use to further refine and complement the complete suspension on a vehicle. Whether your goal is comfort, whether it's handling for the street, autocross, or track, this is all very good information that can get your suspension further refined. For more information, please contact our website, coney-na.com, or our technical staff, either by email or telephone, or catch us at an event. If there's anything we can do to help, just let us know. Thank you much.
We're back. All right, thanks very much to Lee Grimes and the whole crew at Coney for providing those tech tips every week, with a lot of seriously dope shock information and really good in-depth stuff that people can use. Once again, go to coney-na.com, and I think their sale is still going on. You can get like between 30 and 75 bucks off of an entire set of shocks. And hey, if you're gonna buy shocks, I am a fan. So, and again, they support our show. They are good people. Lee Grimes, one of the best in the business. So check them out, coney-na.com. All right, let us now, I see Jim updated us on the resistor. It is a 2 ohm resistor that you want to replace your airbag resistor with. And that will turn your airbag light off, or it is a 2-inch piece of black tape that you can put over the airbag light on the dash. Both will work just fine. Okay, let's talk about seats now, because I'm a big proponent of human factors when it comes to how do we make a car go faster on track, how do we make a car go faster on the autocross course, and one of the ways to do that is by maximizing the car to work well with you as a driver. I mean, if you were taking a math test and there was somebody poking you in the side of the head the whole time, you'd probably do really crappy on that math test. Same thing with driving a race car on track or on an autocross course. If you are not being able to use the muscle groups designed for such a purpose properly, if you are not comfortable, if you are distracted, you are not going to perform at your optimum. And we know the biggest variable in making a car go faster around a track is the dumbass working the controls. It is the person behind the wheel. So maximize that person's comfort level, their confidence level, and let their body do the work that it can. So David Moser says black tape is ghetto. Yeah, if that's the worst thing I ever do to a car, I'm doing okay. So, but yes, it is. If you're going to fix it right, 2 ohm resistor, wire it into the leads that once held your airbag. Light goes off, you're good to go. So let's talk a little bit about seating and about why we might want to change our seating position and how to make things work optimally. When you're driving a car, again, you can go on the web, you can see a lot of people telling you what the correct seating position is, what the ideal seating position is. Yeah, there are some good baselines to sort of start from. There are some good sort of rules of thumb to use, but I'm not going to tell you that you want, a 90-degree bend in your elbows, that you want, a little bit of bend in your legs. I'm not going to tell you that stuff specifically. That's a great place to start. But the direction that I'm going to come at it, whenever I'm coaching somebody or working with a student or somebody doing their first days on track, when I'm getting them into a proper seating position, I want them to be able to work the controls properly using the proper muscle groups. So what do we mean by that? Well, let's take your legs, for example. You've got these big beefy muscles behind your thighs, your hamstrings. You've got beefy muscles again in your calves. You've got much finer muscles in your foot, in your toes, in the fronts of your ankles. So we want to use these big beefy muscles, the backs of the legs, the calves, your glutes. You want to use those big muscle groups for strength. We want to use those smaller, those more finely attuned muscle groups in our feet and in our toes for the fine tuning aspect. Same thing with our hands and our arms. We've got big muscles in our shoulders, in our backs, in our chests. We have much finer, more delicate muscles in our hands. So what's that mean? Well, I want to be able to put the strength of turning the wheel. I want to be able to use my shoulders, my chest, my back. I want to be able to use those big, coarse muscle groups for the strength aspects. I want my hands to be freed up for the finer adjustments. I don't want to ever have to clench my hands around a wheel. I don't want to have to use the strength of my hands to turn a steering wheel, because I want those hands, those wrists, even those forearms to stay loose so I can get a better feel for what's going on. I know I'm kind of creeping you out and like doing a Jeff Goldblum thing here with my fingers, but that's the approach. So that's what I want you to think about when you're designing a seating position for yourself. I don't want you to think about just in terms of 90-degree bends here and 60-degree bends here. I want you to think about what position puts you in the best place to use your major muscle groups the best way possible. And then you have to think that we're all shaped differently. I got short legs. I got kind of a regular sized torso. I'm wide. And I have normal size arms that are really far apart because my shoulders are broad. So, not everybody is going to be 5'10" and 185 pounds and have perfectly proportioned limbs and torso. So think about that when you're designing a seating position for yourself as well. Yeah, Dinesh says, back to the black tape thing. Yeah, don't use black tape. Use a GRM sticker. Actually, put over that airbag light, put a sticker that says 2 ohm resistor. That will remind you to go buy a 2 ohm resistor. You can take that piece of tape right off of your dash. So, back to our seating position thing. We're trying to find an optimal seating position. And when you sit in a C5 Corvette, I haven't yet met the person who fits perfectly in a C5 Corvette. The ideal C5 driver is going to have really long legs, a freaky short torso, and arms that actually come right out of their chest, or like actually that come from around their back like a spider. It's not going to be somebody you want to spend a lot of time with. So let's take a look at some of the proportions of a stock seat here. Stock seat sits fairly flat on the floor, and the front of this seat, let's level that. We are looking at almost 11 inches, about 10 3/4 inches from the floor to the thigh bolster of this seat. For somebody with short legs, that is very, very tall. And as you get closer to the wheel, it's gonna the angle of your thighs is gonna be even higher. It's gonna pull those feet off the pedal. The clutch pedal on a C5 is also notoriously long. The brake and throttle are actually in pretty good positions relative to the seat, but the clutch pedal tends to be really, really far away. We'll show you a way to solve that in a few minutes. But we can already see that we're almost a foot off the ground with the front of this seat. We don't really have a lot of, we have no upper body support whatsoever. I mean, there's just literally no shoulder bolsters in this seat at all. As far as torso bolsters, there's a little bit here, but the fact that there's a lot of lumbar support sort of actually pushes your lower torso away, so you actually don't really get the benefit of these these bolsters very well. Only thing that these seats kind of do have going for them is they have a fairly decent butt pocket where your butt actually kind of slips down inside here. But still, they're very tall. They're up off the deck, and you've got no shoulder support at all. They also tend to wear out and get floppy, and they're not the greatest things in the world durability-wise. Some people need to stick with these seats. If you're running in an SCCA street class, if you're running in an NCCC, Corvette Club, in their stock classes, you've got to stick with your stock seats. Just no way around that. Go back a few weeks and you'll see how we rebuilt these stock seats using foam and leather covers from Mid-America Motor Works. If you've got to stick with the stock seats, make them as good as you can. These new foam kits we got from Mid-America, much firmer than the OEM foam, so it's as good as you're ever going to get with a stock seat. But it is far from as good as you are ever going to get. And what we've done is we have mounted now one of these. This is a Kirkey Model 47, 18-inch wide race seat that we have mounted in our Corvette. Now I know what you're saying. You guys that are familiar with C5s out there, you're saying, hey, you can't get an 18-inch wide seat in a C5. Ha ha ha! That is where you are wrong, because we did just that. It's not. It's a tight squeeze. I'm not going to lie to you. A 17-inch seat will fit in there no problem at all. 16-inch seat even better. But an 18-inch seat will go. We'll put the seat in a few minutes, show you exactly how it goes in there, and show you how to make it work. One of the keys to making any aftermarket seat work is a good mount. This is a mount from AMT Racing. We'll talk about that in a minute, because it is one of the keys to actually being able to get this seat in the proper position. And it's a really, really well-designed, well-engineered, high-tech piece in itself. Let's take a couple quick measurements off of this seat and just see some of the key differences. So whereas before we were about 11 inches off the ground, we are about 7 inches off the ground with the front of this seat. So you can see we've gained a full 4 inches at the thighs. For somebody with short, stumpy legs like me, that is a huge, huge benefit, to be able to get my thighs to come more straight out from my hips, so I can more properly use these large muscle groups in the tops of my legs, in my hips. I can use those for strength, and I can fine tune my brake pressure and my accelerator pressure with the smaller muscle groups down at the end of my legs in my feet. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at the mount we have on here. This is from our friend Mark Petronas at AMT Motorsports. You may remember him from when we did the bushing install a couple months ago. This is what he calls his low seat mount. The reason he calls it that is because this will allow you to nearly put a seat on the floor of a C5. If you've ever driven a C5, you know that you've got some head clearance issues to begin with, especially once you put a helmet on. I'm not a tall guy. My head hits the roof with a helmet on in a stock seat. Do not have that problem with this low mount. This is a slick piece of engineering. So what Mark has done is he has designed an aluminum frame with mounting tabs that allow you to adapt to almost any seat. These mounting tabs actually are designed to go on the inside of these rails. This is how we got the 18-inch seat on here, is we flipped the mounting tabs around to the outside of the rails, which gave us enough clearance to mount this wide of a seat. With a 16-inch seat, you can actually mount these inside. You got more than enough room. A 16-inch seat, absolute no-brainer for getting into a Corvette, but an 18-inch seat will go. So these low mounts with a 16-inch seat will actually let you drop the seat down low enough to essentially touch the floor, or it would actually touch these mounts where you'd only be about 3/16 of an inch off the floor. So you can get it really, really low. We've already gotten it again, about 4 inches lower than stock here. I want to show you another couple of cool details on the mounts because they are really, really slick. It comes with this crossbar here that you can adapt your sub belts right to. It's actually got 3 mounting holes. If you're running a 6-point sub belt, you can run your dual sub belt mounts here. We're running a 5-point harness, so we've only got a single mount there in the center. You can actually move that to different positions. It's all chamfered out, so doesn't create any additional height or any clearance issues. It is really, really slick. In fact, it's even the bolt heads are actually sunk into these brackets here so as not to create any additional width. And it is just a really slick piece. So Andrew has a good question. How do you measure the area before buying the seats? What we normally do is literally I get in there with some pieces of dowel. We have parrots, so we have dowels and rods all over the place that we use for purchase for them because they chew them up. We're always constantly making new ones. But I just get in there with some dowel rod and I basically will physically cut it and put it in. I'll actually cut it and I'll slide it into these areas here until I have clearance. If you just take a measuring tape and stretch it across there, you've got an 1/8 of an inch, a 1/16 of an inch where the tape curls up. I like to have a physical representation of space, so that's why I just take a dowel, keep sort of cutting it and sanding it till it fits, and slide it in, move it around, and once I'm confident that I've got physical clearance to put that in different places, I just measure that and figure out what the width of a physical object that will go in there is, and then I base my seat size from that. So it's essentially a way to make sort of a template. So Steve says head clearance is difficult with a stock seat when you're 6'2" for sure. Yeah, man, I'm like 5'6". Like with a tailwind, I'm 5'6", and my head hits the roof with a helmet on. So anything I can gain is fantastic. Max says, isn't it a better practice to have the sub straps bolt to the floor? The real answer is you want your sub straps to be bolted in safely and securely to something affixed to the car, whether that is the floor itself or whether that is a subframe created by the seat. On the Mustang, they were bolted right to the floor because there was good, solid, flat sheet metal right under the driver's seat in the Mustang. It's easy to access. This car, not quite as easy to access flat sheet metal under that floor. So you actually have to create hard points in the car to use it. But yes, you're not wrong. Attaching your sub belts directly to the floor, good practice. Or triangulating them somehow to existing seat hard mounts is also a very good practice. Speaking of best practices, when we're talking about mounting seats, want to stress the need to use these grade 8 bolts. Kirkey recommends no smaller than a 5/16 inch grade 8 bolt for mounting these seats. That is exactly what we used. If you remember from our hardware show a long time ago, grade 8 bolts can withstand 130,000 pounds per square inch of tensile force before they will snap. Whereas a grade 5 bolt is only about 80 to 85,000 pounds per square inch of force. So grade 8 bolt, you're talking about another 50%, 40, 48, 50% more strength than a grade 5 bolt. So using grade 8 bolts in something like this, chances are that this is no longer your weak link in the system. Your fasteners will, other things will fail long before these grade 8 fasteners will. So whenever you're talking about safety stuff, always use grade 8 or better. If you can find the grade 10 stuff, do it. We have a great local hardware store that carries grade 8 stuff. So always use at least the grade 8 stuff. That is not a place you ever want to skimp, is mounting safety gear. So let's take a few more looks at this seat mounting solution. Here is the one of the keys to Mark's seat mount solution. These are some really slick bolts that he designs that actually mount to the original studs. And this is actually one of the keys that he's able to use to get this system so low. These bolts mount to the original studs, and they have, and it's a nut within a bolt, or a bolt around a nut, basically. So this threads onto the original OEM seat mounting studs that come out of the floor that are sort of down in little pockets. So they're very hard to access with a traditional type of seat frame. This solves that, though, because you can just attach this extension to there, and then you've got this great mounting point for this this whole seat bracket. So let's pop this thing in there, and we'll give you a little closer look at how it actually sits in there. So we'll thread our studs back on, if I can find my adapter here. Seat wide as you'll ever go with a race seat. I'm kind of a wide dude, but my sort of ideal size is about a 16-inch seat. The reason we went with an 18-inch seat is because it gets us more options for getting different people in the car. We've got a wide range of sizes and shapes on staff, so it's a lot easier to add padding than it is to widen aluminum. So 18-inch seat is doesn't exclude really anybody at that point. And also, if you're ever going to use this thing on the street, it's nice to be able to add additional padding to it to get you to and from those events that you might be transiting to in this race seat. So you see the method is kind of to get it forward and slide it back into place here. And now we can start putting some of our hardware on. Mark gives you extremely nice hardware with these things. These seat mounts go for about $400, I think. He has some sales occasionally on this stuff. If you ask me, worth every cent, because there is no easier off-the-shelf way to get a C5 seat lower than this. The one thing it doesn't give you is slider adjustability, but you know what? A smart fabricator might be able to adapt a slider to this and make it work. I would not be a bit surprised to find out that somebody adapted a slider to one of these. And yes, those are just tightened down with the ratchet. We'll go back and do that later when we're not on TV. But there is what our interior looks like now. Let me grab my iPad here, see if I missed any important questions. Jim wants us to see what we did to mount the lap belts to the harness. Yeah, I will. Actually, I will show you that right now because I didn't bolt that in. Here's what I did, and there are multiple solutions out there. Oh, son of a bitch. Hang on, I bolted the seat down to my... Somehow Hey Chris, while I'm doing this, swing around if you can and show them this clutch pedal in here, because that's an important part of the equation as well. And watch, I think I got some butt crack going on too, so watch out for that. So if Chris can look over my shoulder, you're going to see the clutch pedal down there. I mentioned before that C5s have just an obscenely long clutch throw to them, and that is something we found at Mid-America Motor Works. It is a clutch pedal extension. It's about an inch long, bolts right onto your clutch pedal. Really, really slick thing. It's like 50 bucks, and again, if we're talking about getting ourselves in the right position to operate the automobile, that is a very important part of the equation right there. So that gets a full thumbs up stamp of recommendation from me on the clutch pedal extension there. Okay, here's what we did for our lap belt mounting. Yeah, no, Jim, it wasn't you, man. It was me forgetting. It was me bolting this thing to the floor accidentally. So this is this piece of 1-inch tubing. Our clip-in belt mounts are here, and then it's just a couple of tabs that are drilled out to basically let us bolt it down on top of that seat frame, and it just. Which side I'm looking at? Yeah, it goes in like this, or not like that. Like something. I don't know. I'm all turned around. I'm drunk. So yeah, that's basically what we did. Now there are commercial solutions for this. There are basically off-the-shelf pieces you can get from companies like Bray Krause or Shark Bar. That maybe Ed can find the links for both those guys. I know Shark Bar, actually, we did a harness mount on our old 99 C5. And again, it was very similar to this. It was Sunday, I had stuff sitting around, did some cutting, did some welding. We were good to go. Chris, don't look too close at these welds, actually. Yeah, Jim says, did we fab it up? Yeah, we fabbed it. So yeah, and RideTech has a solution like this as well. And again, it's stuff that co-opts the existing mounting points for the seats to give you a place to mount those harnesses, and that's a great solution. So yeah, Chris, come on back over. We'll take one final look at it before we sign off. That is what our cockpit currently looks like. It is a much friendlier place to actually go about the business of driving. We have a nice, easy to remove, quick release wheel that allows easy ingress and egress from this race seat. If anybody's ever climbed in and out of a race seat repeatedly, you know it's not really the easiest thing in the world. You'd actually get in and out fairly easily with the wheel in place, but having the wheel removed makes it just that much easier. And it also looks cool because you can walk into the hotel at night holding your steering wheel in your hand and everybody thinks like, hey, what's that guy's problem? We haven't wired the horn up yet because if you want to use this Momo wheel with the horn, you do need to use the adapter because it provides a little bit more space in here. I think I'm going to be able to modify it to make it work though. But for now, if somebody cuts me off, I just say, hey, I'm driving here. And that seems to work pretty well so far. All right, folks, that's it. Sorry we were late tonight, man. Sorry we didn't join you in time. Let's see if we have any questions. So, okay, Lundy has a good question. Now that we have the seat harness and the wheel hub combo, use the harness for normal street use, just revert to the OEM seatbelt. So I do not like using a harness on the street. That mount, the AMT Motorsports seat mount, actually has plenty of holes, and somewhere around here I have sitting this is the stock seatbelt receptacle. This actually fits just fine on that mount. You can slide it up through the harness hole, and it works just fine. You can actually go through the harness hole over here on the right side and do the seatbelt up around you. And I prefer that for the street a lot more than using a harness. Again, we're in uncharted territory here when it comes to laws and regulations. That's what we do in Florida. Florida's the Wild West. You can get away with stuff here. We don't really have inspections. We don't really have a lot of restrictions on what we can do with cars. So check your local laws. The only reason this isn't on here is because it was one less piece to deal with for TV. It was on there until you guys came along. It was on there, and I've been using it for street use. Now, in the next couple months, we're actually going to be checking out a different seat from a company called CRC Industries that lets you use the entirety of the OEM seatbelt system, and it actually allows you to thread those OEM seatbelts through the harness holes on both sides. It has harness holes configured in such a way you can remove your seatbelt retractor from near your left hip in the side of the car over here, pass it through the harness hole, and you have a complete OEM style harness within a shell style seat. We'll be checking one of those out in a couple months. Those are in production right now. We're actually pretty excited to check those out because anything that improves the seating in a C5, this guy is on board because they are not the best seats to begin with. Let's see. So yeah, I'm glad that answered your question. And Andy says hanging the detached wheel looks cool. Yeah, if you have a detachable wheel, you got to have that cool hook up on your roll bar to hang that wheel on, or you just hang it off your mirror. But then it screws your mirror all up. Or you just take it and you throw it out the window and you're like, hey, I don't care, man. That's how I live. I'm on the edge 24/7, 364. I take a day off to rest. That's how I live my life, folks. That is the show. Before you go, we're going to talk about some of our sponsors in a second. Before you go, though, next week, you don't want to miss a second of it. Peter Calhoun from BF Goodrich Tires is going to be right here in the shop talking all about tire tech with us. This weekend, we are doing a tire test. We're going to compare a set of Michelin Pilot Super Sports, a 300 treadwear tire, to a set of BF Goodrich Rival S's, a 200 treadwear tire, to a set of BF Goodrich R1S's, a DOT legal race tire, an R compound slick. We know what's going to be faster, but I'm really excited to see the actual data traces from inside the car to see how each of those tires is going about producing its speed. And I'm actually really, really excited to do this test Peter's going to be here with us next week to talk to us about the results of that test. We're doing it on this car right here. And we're going to talk about any of your tire tech questions, how those tires are made, what the best way to use them is, what you want to use different tires in what situation. Great opportunity to have a very knowledgeable dude, a very nice dude here to talk with us about tires. So we hope you join us for that. Yeah, Jim, spread the word, man. That is your job from here on. If you enjoy the show, if you dig what we're doing, if you like the cool stuff we're laying on you, spread the word. That is really the best present you can ever give this tired old fool, and we really appreciate it. Also, another great thing you can do for us is go check out our friends at CRC Industries. You check them out at crcindustries.com on the web, or you can go to any major retailer where they sell automotive chemicals, where they sell cleaners and lubricants and any of that stuff, and you will find CRC chemicals. Reach up to that shelf, grab a can, take it home. We promise you it'll be good. Even more than that, you know it's going to be good, but also you're going to be supporting this world that we love, this world of amateur and professional motorsports. It's that way of giving back a little bit to the community. Also, check out our friends at Coney, coney-na.com. Thanks to Lee Grimes and the whole crew for the Coney Tech Tip of the Week, teaching us all about shock dynos, how they work, what to do with that knowledge once you have it. Also, check out our friends at Autobooks Aerobooks. You can check them out at autobooks-aerobooks.com. If you got to give a gift to somebody, we've got Mother's Day coming up, or it just happened. We got Father's Day coming up. Books make a great gift. Magazines make a great gift. DVDs make great gifts. Check them out at autobooks-aerobooks.com. And if you can get out to Southern California, if you're ever out there, it is worth the trip. Yeah, San Diego Zoo is great. It's cool. Whatever, Queen Mary. Go check out Autobooks. It is worth the effort to get there to the store in Burbank. Trust me on this one. And that is it for this week. Thank you for joining us. Dinesh wants to know, where will the testing be taking place? That testing will be taking place in Moultrie, Georgia, my friend. We are teaming up with Dixie Region SCCA. We'll be up there on Saturday, weather permitting, if the weather holds out. Right now it looks like it's going to be favorable for that test, but we'll be keeping a close eye on it. We're having a lot of rough weather here in the southeast as of late, the whole East Coast, really. So right now the weather looks good for Saturday, and we're thinking we can pull that test off, and I'm really excited to see those results. We'll be talking all about that next week. That looks like it is it. Dinesh says we should pull up to McDonald's in an LMP1 race car. I would love to pull up to anywhere. I'd pull up to a Hardee's in an LMP1 race car. That's how I'd go to Arby's in an LMP1 race car. That's how low I would sink. There goes the Arby's account. But look, you know what I'm saying. Folks, that's it. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next week. Please spread the word about this show, about all the cool stuff going on at Grassroots Motorsports. Oh, free stickers. I promised free stickers. You guys were nice enough to stick around, to be patient while we worked out our tech issues. If you want a free pair of Grassroots Motorsports stickers, go to grassrootsmotorsports.com/free stickers. Give us your address through that form there. We will send you a pair of free stickers free of charge. No cost, free, just like it says. Not a dime will you spend. And also, every once in a while, we'll yank somebody out of that free sticker pile, and they will get a little goodie bag of CRC stuff. And that's just how we show you the love. Thanks very much to Ed, who is in Virginia at the UTCC right now. Ultimate Track Car Challenge, for moderating this evening. Thanks to Chris behind the camera. We're trying to keep him from getting addicted to back pills, running that heavy Steadicam every week. So we got to let him get a little break here. And thanks to all of you for watching, folks. I'm JG Pasterjack. This is Grassroots Motorsports Live, presented by CRC Industries. We'll see you again next week. Good night.